Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. My name's Zach Cohen. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. I know there's a lot of candidates here that you want to hear from. I was born and raised here in the Lehigh Valley. My family's fifth generation. And I became a lawyer because I want to help people. I like to solve problems and I like to help people. I have been a civil litigator for 15 years now. I started my career as a law clerk for the President Judge of Northampton County. Since then, I've been doing trials all over Pennsylvania. I've litigated in over 25 counties, all levels of state court and federal court. I've had filings at the United States Supreme Court. I want to be a judge to help this community. I want to be a public servant. My father-in-law was a judge, and when I watched him go to work, he inspired me. I saw what he did. I saw how he helped people. I saw how the courthouse could be a place where people's lives were transformed for the better. It didn't always need to be a place of fear. Good things can happen there. As a judge, I want to bring a lot of reform to this county. I want to be the judge for all people. I don't care if you're black, you're white, like Judge McCaffrey said. Everyone deserves the same fair shot. You could be poor, you could be wealthy. You need a fair judge. You need a judge who's going to listen. You need a judge who's going to be open-minded. And those are the qualities I'm going to bring to the bench. I'm going to treat people, all people, with respect and dignity. I'm the past president of the Lehigh County Bar Association. That's an organization of over 700 attorneys and paralegals. They elected me to be their leader. I'm a past editor of the Lehigh Law Journal. I sit on a lot of community boards. I represent a lot of local nonprofits pro bono. I dedicate my time. I write wills for free for first responders. It's a program called Wills for Heroes, something I'm very proud of. And I'm grateful that you're all listening here today and you're here. And the primary's on May 21st. I hope you'll come out and vote for me. Again, my name's Zach Cohen, and I hope to be the next judge of Lehigh County. Thank you. Sure.
If you get elected judge, what I'm concerned about is the felonies. Like when a man get out of jail, he can't get a job.
Sure.
That's what I'm concerned about.
I do recognize there are significant issues and obstacles for people with re-entry into our society. I will look for every available program at my fingertips to make sure that people have every opportunity they can. I want to see people succeed. I want to see people be reintegrated. I want to see people who are nonviolent offenders not have to go to jail if there are alternatives to support them and get back on their feet. And for those people who are violent offenders, I do think there are paths for them too, that they can be successfully reintegrated into society. I think it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of systems. Today, I was at a group meeting for a group called Zero Youth Violence in Allentown, and it's a very important group. They're doing a lot of great work, and to the extent groups like that can build up strength and provide programs for people, those are going to be the options I'm looking for to give to the people that come before me. I've been a court-appointed arbitrator for over 10 years now. The court already trusts me to handle some of their backlog of cases, and these are the types of things I'm going to be looking for when I'm on the bench to help people out. I want to see our community succeed. Thank you.
Cohen.
Zach, or
Mr. Cohen.
Cohen.
My name is Tony Phillips. I'm the president of NAACP in Allentown. The three branches in this region formulated a criminal justice reform, justice reform forums and committees, and talking about things that we'd like to see done. Seeing that you are aspiring to be on the board, on the bench, what would be your take on some of the progressive things that are being done, not only in Pennsylvania, but locally by Northampton County? By Northampton County, but Lehigh County has been really resistant to doing, such as mental health issues, mental health assessments, risk assessments, and no bail, those kind of things. What would be your take, and how would you lead a charge to make our county come into the 21st, to the new millennium?
Sure. I do have a progressive track record I'm 41 years old, so I hope I can bring some fresh ideas to the courthouse. I got my start in Northampton County. I was the law clerk for the president judge of Northampton County, so I'm aware of the programs they have and how they really are pioneering and leading the way in our area. And so I would look to them, and I would look all around us to look for fresh ideas and how we can improve here. I don't want to be stuck in a rut. I do want to see progress. So I'm not afraid to look for new solutions to our problems here. Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions for Zach Cohen? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for the time. Have a great night, everyone.
Next up, we have Eric Dottle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. April. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eric Dowdle. I am running for the Judge of Court of Common Pleas in Lehigh County. First of all, I want to thank the Grand Master for having this affair tonight. Several years ago, when I was considering running for a judge, I talked to somebody, not my current team, and they weren't hired for this reason. They said, don't tell anybody you're a Mason. People don't want to know that. I thank you for being here tonight because apparently you do want to know that. I thank you for being here tonight and espousing the values and beliefs of the Masonic templates. Guys, in 1745, my ancestor Robert Dowdall came here from Northern Ireland, and he fought against the British in the Revolutionary War. About 100 years later, my great-great-grandfather, Emmanuel Paulus, fought for the North in the Civil War, and he's buried in Slatington. Since then, my family has served this area. My grandfather was a welder at Bethlehem Steel in World War II, and he was burned by falling metal for 50 cents an hour. And he rode back and forth to work 364 days that year for 50 cents an hour on a Harley Davidson because he couldn't afford a car. But he went, and when the war was over, he quit. My uncle is buried next to my grandfather, and he was a firefighter and a police officer, and he was a Mason. And when I took my third degree, I took it with his Bible that he received in the 50s when he got his 32nd. I learned a lot. I learned a lot more from my grandfather, the welder and mechanic, and my uncle, the fire and police officer, than I did in law school. Law school is a trade school. It is no more and no less than that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a service profession. It requires service. It does not require power. As a judge, it is the culmination of that service. If you are looking to the bench for power, you should look elsewhere. You are doing this to serve people. You are doing it to be fair. I spent 9 years as a prosecutor, both in Lehigh and Northampton counties. I spent 11 years as a member of the Lehigh Valley Pretrial Services Board, which deals exclusively with bail. In answer to your question in the back, sir, about the issues facing young black males in this county, my question to you as a judge and as an attorney is not how you stood with the powerful, but how you stood with the powerless. Because as attorneys, we stand in the middle, or we should. And we should stand up. And I've been doing that for the last 16 years, folks. I don't represent wealthy defendants. I represent poor defendants. I was a part-time public defender, and now I'm in practice for myself. And if you ask around, you will find out I have the lowest fees in the Lehigh Valley. And I take cases that I believe in, and I do that for a very good reason, and sometimes people can't afford it. But ladies and gentlemen, Martin Luther King in 1957 said the most urgent and persistent question is, what are you doing for others? We hear people say, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I say to you, no, no, no. The question is, what are you doing? What am I doing? I'm on the board of the Conference of Churches. I do volunteer work for veterans, combat veterans, and I do trial work for them. I do heavy lifting for them. I do volunteer work throughout the Lehigh Valley. I'm on the board of the SPCA. I lead a scout group as the advancement chair. I belong to organizations that serve the people. Ladies and gentlemen, being a judge is important because you have to be neutral and detached, and you have to be fair. And you cannot be fair without knowing both sides. I've been a prosecutor, and I am a defense attorney. I've done civil work for plaintiffs, and I've done civil work for defense. I have represented the trades unions in asbestos litigation for those injuries. I've represented the steel workers, the carpenters, the steam fitters, the iron workers, the laborers, the operating engineers. Ladies and gentlemen, I was proud to do it. And I'll be very proud to be a judge. Because in addition to my legal background, I've been a lumber delivery driver. I've been a disc jockey. I've been a garbage man. I've been a bank teller. I've flipped burgers in fast food. And the question is about what are you doing? I'm working to reintegrate. Please ask candidates, what have you done to reintegrate folks from the jails? I hire people from the jails, specifically because they came from the jails, because they know how it works. They know the ropes better than I do. They can help families find their way through the mess of the system by leading them to programs within the jail, by helping them get phones set up and that sort of thing, and by giving them a chance in a law practice where somebody trusts them. And I've been doing that for 16 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud of what I've done, and I'd be very proud to be a judge. Any questions for me, please?
Yeah.
Sir, please.
Man, I sure appreciate what you're saying, man. And, you know, all that, you know, I take my hat off to you about all the things that you do for inmates and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
But the reality, man, is who's going to really stand for the crimes that are really going on against the minority? Who's going to really stand for those? They're already in law. How do we change them?
Sir,
I mean, we can get up here and we can shoot smoke all we want.
Quick facts.
How in the world do we change what's going on now? I want the same thing as every white person going in the Senate.
Amen.
I want the same thing that everybody wants. But we don't have it. It's not up to us, and we just don't have it. And I'm tired of hearing that, you know, all this other malarkey, but the reality, excuse me, President. But anyway, Vice President. But nevertheless, it's malarkey. Who's going to really actually do something to change those laws for us as minorities to have an equal chance? I don't want nothing different than anybody else.
Agreed.
I want to work just as hard as anybody else. But I want my kids not to be shot down and all that other nonsense because of who they are or because of fear.
I agree with you.
Now, how are we going to change that? I can get up here and you can get up here and say how you've done this and you've done that, and I congratulate you. But how are we going to change when we get up to the hierarchy? Because this is the grassroots of
That's
politics.
a fact. Yes, sir.
How in the world how do we change the big things that's going on? How do we change it? How can you make the playing field equal for us all?
The way you do that is, and the only thing I take exception to with your question, sir, is how are we going to do that? The question should be, how are we doing that now? And that's what I'm working towards. I work on that every day, sir. I call it out when I see it. Yes, sir.
I understand that, but it's going to take you and 100,000 more people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The way you do it is by calling it out. You mentioned when you asked Judge McCaffrey a question about the elephant in the room. You are 100% correct. You're 100% correct that we don't address racial issues in the courtroom. And we don't talk about prejudice and bias. And we need to. That dialogue needs to happen, and it needs to happen every day. Because as a young black man, as a young Spanish man, young black female, young Spanish female, doesn't matter. You deserve the same rights as everybody else that walks into that room, and it's about time everybody started talking about that.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
Thank you, folks.
Okay, we got more judges that's running for Commonwealth of Lehigh County. Yes. and sign in, please sign in. But you come up here because you're next anyway. The judge, And this is Anna Christie.
Christy Marks. It's okay.
Anna Christie. Calm down, please. Because we got to keep it moving, okay? Anna Christie Morris, she's also running for Commonwealth Lehigh County Judge.
Thank you.
Can I have silence and respect, please? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Christie Marks, and I am running as well for Lehigh County Common Pleas Court Judge here. Thank you again, everyone, for allowing me to speak. I bring a little something different to the bench. I was born in Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo to be exact, and I was born there and I moved to this country when I was 4 years old. Spanish was my first language. My mother is Dominican and my father is Cuban. When I got here, I learned the language and I now am bilingual. And I would be the first ever Spanish-speaking judge in Lehigh County. And when I tell that to people, they're shocked. Because they're like, there's no way there's never been anyone that's Spanish-speaking. And I tell them, no, that is absolutely the truth. There has never been a Spanish-speaking judge. And why I feel that is very important is because things get lost in translation. It happens all the time. I am currently a prosecutor in the Special Victims Unit, and I actually had a rape trial once where the mother of a boy who had been raped was on the witness stand, and she was speaking in Spanish, and she was explaining what had happened to her son. And the interpreter was next to her, and the interpreter was a very nice person, but when she did the interpretation, she got it wrong. And I stopped the trial, and I said, can the interpreter look that up in the translation book, because I believe that the translation for that word and that sentence is not correct. And she looked it up, and I was right. And I think that changed the trajectory of the trial. So that is something that I think is very important that I bring to the bench. I am, as you can understand by what I just said, a Special Victims Unit prosecutor. And I was late tonight because I was at the Crime Victim Council Victim Vigil. And there we honor the lives of the victims of homicides and sexual assaults that can result in homicides. And I was reminded of what I do on a daily basis, and that is I am privileged to be the voice of victims. I am privileged to give them a voice that they have never had in Lehigh County. And that's what I do. I also am very firm in the way that I handle the resolution of those cases because I am their voice. So on the bench, I believe I bring with me a balance of strength, but compassion for those who deserve compassion and a voice. The position on the bench is a trial court position. You oversee the trial court proceedings. You oversee pleas, hearings, motions. And I was doing some math the other day. Because I'm in court 2 to 3 days a week, and I've been doing this for 12 years, I have been in court roughly 1,560 to about 1,800 days of my career I have spent in a courtroom. So I'm in the trenches, I am there, and I have done the work. And the position is to oversee that work. So I feel as though I'm a very strong candidate, and I hope that you get on this journey with me, because it's going to be quite an adventure, and I would be very proud to represent everyone on the Court of Common Pleas. Thank you.
Seeing that, hearing your background and resume, it seems to me that you are leaning to one side, and that's the prosecutor side. How do we understand that you're the other side of the defense? Because when you have a defendant from you, you have two sides. I would be under the understanding that you would be more of a judge that would be able to do penalizing and you're heavy-handed and those kind of things. So I'm concerned that if you were elected, that you would be a prosecutor for the prosecutor more so than the defense.
Okay, I get that, and I appreciate that question, and I get that question often, and here's why. I think that there is a lot of gray that goes on in resolving cases, and I have been a part of a lot of diverse sentences that are not just throw and lock up and throw away the key. I have been a part of a lot of sentences that are about figuring out why that person ticks the way they do or why they are in the place they find themselves in. And I love to figure out the history of a person. I love to figure out how they have gotten to where they have gotten. And so I'm a very different prosecutor than your average prosecutor. And if you ask the defense bar, I have a very good reputation with them as a person who looks at every aspect of a sentence and finding the appropriate sentence for each individual, because it's about individuals. It's not about groups. It's about individuals and finding the proper place for that. Okay. Thank you.
Any more judges? Okay, I apologize. Okay. Okay, so she has a question. 1 second.
Yeah, my question is, I have a couple of nephews who went to jail, and they did 20 odd years, and they had to do the whole 20. When they got out, I feel like if you done went to prison, you done served your time in prison. Why, when they get out of jail, they still victims? They can't get no job. They have kids, they can't feed their kids. What do you think that person gonna do when they can't feed their kids? They're gonna turn around and do something to feed their family, and they're gonna end up back in jail, and the system know that. And when they get out of jail, you wanna turn around after they did 20 years and say, well, you're gonna be on probation for 10. In that 10 years, he can't get no job. How he gonna feed his family? So now, he's back in jail. For little, things to be worked out just as good, you can help get that man a job, because we all is human and we all have made some type of mistake. We're not perfect. So you have to give people a chance, because you can get caught up in the system and be a good person. So you have to give that person a chance to get back out there and get on his feet. So what are you going to do once you become a judge? You're going to try to work for these people getting out of jail and have a job and a house for their family.
There has to be a reentry plan. That's the bottom line. There has to be a way in order to get as much help and assistance for those individuals. And so there needs to be more work on reentry plans. That's the bottom line. Is that we don't have that.
So far, they ain't working.
Right. I know.
And once again, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I've taken 13 people up to see state representatives. 13. Peter Schreier, Mike Schlossberg. I took 13 people who had jobs. 2 of them were going up to get a supervisory job because they worked so well. But then they did another investigation as to their background check. They got fired. They got fired, and here we are. This is what I'm talking about, you know. See, nobody in here would never understand until it hits your doorstep. Ain't nobody gonna fight. Ain't nobody gonna fight until it hits your doorstep. When it hits your doorstep, then you're gonna stand up and you're gonna run, you're gonna shout like me. But the reality is that I appreciate everyone who's running, but I need someone who's here that can actually stand up and tell me, how are you going to help our minorities? Because it's not so much anybody else, but it's the minority. And I know it's a system that's set up for us to fail, and no one wants to admit that, because just like her, if my counterpart, which is a white guy, had the same charge, I bet you $100 for a donut, he'd find a job. I bet you $100. But as long as the government can keep black men and black males separated, then it's never going to happen. And that is the plan, I believe. I'm sorry.
Okay, going forward. Okay. One second. Maya, ask you a question.
With the understanding of your position, all right, do you have the power to change laws?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Okay. Going forward, just so you understand.
Can I say something? I know there are too many followers here. I don't know if you heard of the program that he signed just recently, the Step Back program, which addresses all the concerns.
I understand.
You understand?
Yes.
So there is someone doing something for all of us,
Okay, thank you.
for Hispanics and blacks and everybody.
Thank you. Going forward, just so we make clear for those who really don't understand how the levels of government works, the reason why these people are here is that there's different levels of government. Some are in positions where they can't really make the change. All they can do is when they get there, represent it and make sure it's represented right in that position. The situation he's talking about, that's for your state reps to handle locally. And if the state reps aren't doing what they're supposed to do, then we have to question them. But as the people that are running for judge, they're in there and they pretty much represent the law as it stands and make sure that they oversee it fairly. So that judge, that the people that are talking for judge now, that want to run for that position, the question is, you ask them is, are you going to execute the law fairly and not turn a blind eye? That's the question you ask. As for them changing the law, no, they're not in that position. Just going forward, just so you understand. And your name, Tom Capehart is also coming up next for judge, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Tom Capehart. I'm an attorney here in Allentown. I've been practicing law for 30 years now, right here in Lehigh County. I was born and raised in Emmaus, graduated from Emmaus High School in 1982, went to college, went to law school, came back here, married my junior high sweetheart, actually, who's a school teacher in Southern Lehigh. And I'm a proud husband to begin with, but I'm a proud father of 2 children. My son Matt is 26, he's a school teacher in Southern Lehigh School District. And my daughter Laura is a graduate student at Cedar Crest College, also seeking to become a teacher. So many people ask me why I'm going to be judge, why I think I want to be judge, or what prompted me to pursue being a judge. It's multi-level. First of all, it seems to be the next step in my professional career. As I said, I've been practicing law here in Lehigh County for 30 years now. I'm in my 30th year. I have practiced in a wide variety of cases, primarily on the civil side of the court. But I have done many, many cases dealing with, workers' compensation, and I've played both sides. I've represented the insurance carriers and the employers, and I've represented the injured workers or the claimants. And I've done that for many years. I've done litigation work, general litigation work, for those 30 years. I have litigation cases in over 50 50 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. I appear in federal bankruptcy court very often, so I am in Philadelphia, Reading, Wilkes-Barre, Harrisburg, presenting cases primarily for banks and those who have made loans to folks. So I'm a creditor's rights attorney. But I do much more than that. For example, I've done and handled residential real estate, commercial real estate, business formation, business selling, the selling of assets, the selling of their stock. I've handled condominium matters and homeowner association matters. I've handled domestic matters, so divorces, custody, support. I've done all those things. These are all the things that judges are going to be faced with every day. Every day. And you don't know what you're going to get. Yeah, I've done the PFAs and some of those protection from abuse matters. But candidly, it's whatever comes in front of the court. You have to have a broad spectrum of experience and knowledge and know-how in order to effectively be a judge here in Lehigh County. Particularly, at this, as Christy mentioned, the trial court level. It's significantly important. And the judge also has to command the respect of the litigants, which I would hope that I can do. I know many of the lawyers in Lehigh County after practicing here in 30 years, and I think I've cultivated a pretty good reputation for being fair and honest, and if my case has some weaknesses, I admit it. I tell them, and we work out something that is in my client's best interest, and presumably the other attorney representing the other party does the same for his or her client. I have done wills, trusts, and estate work. So I help families when somebody in their family has died, handle the transfer of assets. Maybe the life insurance policy needs to be obtained. All these things I do because, and I think Eric may have mentioned it, helping people. That's what we do. That's really what lawyers do. We help people. And I think Judge McCaffrey said, it's head and it's heart. It's head and it's heart. And a lot of it is heart. Because a lot of us do what we do, not necessarily for the money. Yes, we all have to make a living. That's true, just as everybody else here needs to make a living. But we do it because we truly believe in our system. We truly believe in the law. We truly believe in equality. And we want what is fair and right for our clients. When people ask me why I decided to run for judge, the first is it's the next step in my professional life. The other component is it's the next step in my community service life. I have served our community in many capacities. I have been in my Emmaus Lions Club for over 25 years. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Emmaus Lions or the Lions Club generally, we serve the blind and visually impaired. That's our goal, and we do it very effectively as part of the Emmaus Lions Club, and I'm a very proud member. I have been the president of the Emmaus Lions Club. I have run the Nurses Scholarship Program for the Emmaus Lions Club. I have run the physical fitness team, physical activity committee for the Emmaus Lions Club. So I've given back with respect to the youth in our local community. I am an elder at my church, and I've served probably I've been an elder for probably 15 years now. I've served as the president of our consistory. I've served as the secretary of our consistory, and served on the board probably about 20 years. Very important to me. It's a very important part of my life, and I think it should be an important part of most folks' lives. Just like Eric, I serve on the Conference of Churches board. I'm the one who actually asked Eric to join our board. I've been on the board now for about 4 or 5 years, and I'm a proud member of that board. The Lehigh Conference of Churches helps our community in many ways, and I know one gentleman had a question about people getting out of jail. What do you do for them? The Lehigh Conference of Churches has a new program. It's called the Lazarus Project. When folks get out of jail, we provide low-income housing for them It's not an independent living situation. They have to share facilities, but they have a room by themselves, they've got to get a job, and it helps them get back on their feet and be reintegrated back into our community. I've served on the Literacy Center board. I'm also, I've served as the chair of the East Penn Chamber where I live in Emmaus. I've served as the East Penn Chamber chair. I've chaired that for 2 years and been a board member for probably about 7 years now. Helping our community, helping our small businesses grow. It's very important to me. I've also been a PIAA football official for about 20 years now. So if you ever watch television on the sideline, you're pointing at me because you yelled at me a couple times. I'm usually the gentleman on the sidelines by the yard markers. So I'm the one who has to come in when we have to measure for first downs. So yeah, I hear a lot on the sideline, but my goal has always been, and I think even with the coaches, we teach the kids. And for the most part, the kids are really good, really good. The parents, for the most part, are good too. But as we said, we're still teaching, we're still teachers. And even the coaches on the sideline and the interaction that officials have with the coaches, that's how we teach the kids how to interact and deal with one another. And I think we do a pretty good job of that, candidly. We have to communicate. And if we have a disagreement, that's okay. We talk about it, we're done, and we move on. So, why I want to become a judge? It's the next step in my professional life, my professional career. It's the next step in my community service, and I hope to bring all those things to the bench of Lehigh County. So I hope to bring my life experiences as an attorney practicing here for 30 years, as a husband, as a father, and a concerned member of our community in hopes of making it better. And I would hope that you would vote for me, Tom Capehart, at the primary on May 21st. And I'll take any questions. Yes, sir.
What's your view on separating church and state?
It's an interesting question. Again, judicial canons and ethics prevent us from discussing those things necessarily. As a trial judge, and I think we were sort of talking about this, we are obligated to follow the law. So if the appellate courts in Pennsylvania, like where Judge McCaffrey wants to serve, the Superior Court or the Commonwealth Court or the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, if they've got case law, we have to follow it. We don't have any discretion. And candidly, that's why it makes it easy on one hand and hard on the other. It's easy because you take the law, which should be fairly clear, applying it to the facts, and we come up with a solution. So the gentleman said, it doesn't matter what your race is, your gender is, your religious background, it doesn't matter. You take the law, you apply it to your facts. It's not always easy, but that part is a little clearer. What the difficult part is, because we're human, is separating our political views and our personal views from that equation. We're all human, but we have to do that as judges. That's what we're called on to do. We have to be fair. So if the law and the facts, yield an outcome that I may not like, well, that's too bad. That's what the law is. And that's how we get to be fair. That the law applies equally for everybody, no matter what your race is, no matter what your gender is, no matter what your background or ethnicity is, it's the same from the law perspective.
So you're saying that the law is against church, don't matter what, I'm gonna follow the law.
No, I'm not sure what you're asking with that question.
That's pretty plain. I mean, if I'm a Christian and then your view is that, well, and
I'm a Christian as well.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, like even in the school, the kids can't pray no more, they can't,
That is not my role as a judge. I can't do anything about that as a judge. However, You folks can do something about that by electing people to Congress, whoever makes the laws or changes the laws to do that. We as judges don't have that authority. We're bound to follow the law, whether I like it or not, or whether any of us like it or not, or agree with it or not. Yes, ma'am?
How do you feel about the cash bail system?
Cash bail, because I don't do a lot of criminal work, I understand the issue. I'd have to take a closer look at it. As I stand here today, I can't give you an answer. From the little I know, I'm not opposed to it, but I want to hear. I want to hear from everybody, so. And we come up with a solution. That's what we do. And I think many of the judges, it's one of the things that judges are supposed to do is listen. We listen. And then we come up with a solution. And if that's an appropriate solution, that's what's going to happen. I just can't comment because I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
Yes?
You know, I gave you credit for being the most honest person here where you came up and you said it's your next professional step. But then you also turned around and said that you died that this judicial system is fair, and that's the way you handle it. How do we know we can hold you accountable to remaining fair once you get into that seat and not falling into the barter system that falls within the judicial system?
I can't make any guarantees to you about anything. All I can say is, based on my almost 30 years in practice, you can ask other lawyers about my reputation. I think I've got a reputation for being fair and honest and being straight up with folks. And that's all I can promise to you. I'll be fair, straight up, and honest with you when I'm deciding these cases.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Great, thank you.